All right. Hi, everybody. This is Ryan Pratt, the VP of Marketing and Research at GradLeaders, and welcome to our April GradLeaders Career Center webinar, all about our new mobile-first employer interface coming this May for your recruiters. A reminder that everyone has been automatically muted on entry today, but we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions during the presentation, don't hesitate to type them into the chat functionality within WebEx at any time and send them to all panelists so that I, Chelsea, and Jessica can all see them, and then we will answer them during the Q&A session. Our agenda today is all about our IXD development project and the resulting new employer interface redesign. We'll also briefly explain what IXD means, and then there's also a few other small but exciting enhancements coming to the employer portal in GradLeaders Career Center as part of this project. So we'll touch on those as well, but then we're going to spend a majority of our time today doing a live demo of the redesigned employer portal. And of course, we'll end with the Q&A and a few reminders at the end. So first things first, when is this redesign going to be live in the production environment for your recruiters? And the answer is this May. So we have some schools trying out the system in beta today, and we're targeting a release to all GradLeaders Career Center partners this May after our conference. One of the first things you'll notice is that we followed the same IXD design principles as our candidate interface redesign from last year, so it'll look familiar to most of you. As a result, everything we learned from phase 1 and phase 2 of that candidate interface redesign has been incorporated into this employer interface redesign as well. So the other question that's probably on some of your minds is, what do we mean when we say IXD or interaction design? By definition, interaction design tries to tackle complex tasks and transforms them into intuitive, accessible, and easy-to-use interfaces for everyone from the first-time user to the sophisticated expert. On screen here, you can see the 5 pillars of interaction design. But in a nutshell, interaction design requires us to understand how different personas interact with our platform so that we can provide predictable interactions when users click buttons, swipe on the screen, or scroll that makes it effortless, interesting, and easy to use. Here are just a few examples of some other IXD designs you might find in other products and services, just to give you an idea. But here in a few minutes, you'll see some examples of interaction design in our GradLeaders Career Center employer portal during the live demo. But for us and for you and for your recruiters, the most exciting result of this redesign is that the employer portal is now mobile friendly and will automatically adjust to the device of their choice, whether it's a mobile phone, a tablet, a laptop, or a desktop computer. We also created 2 new widgets on the top of every employer dashboard. So there's going to be a new My Events widget and a new Job Postings widget. These 2 widgets will appear on the top of every employer dashboard to make it easier for them to get to what they want to do, which is post jobs and schedule time to come on campus. As part of our IXD project, we started by analyzing the data. And what we found is that a majority of the time, employers are just logging into the system to post jobs. Beyond that, they're submitting OCR requests for interviews, events, career fairs, etc., and managing that process. Then they're really logging back in to review the candidates or applicants. So the new dashboards for employers should not only help them effortlessly do what they want to do, but it will also give you an opportunity to better highlight a few of these other self-service tools and resources available to your recruiters and your employers. And as always, this employer portal, like every other piece of our platform, will be branded to your school or career center so that you get all the credit that you deserve for placing your students in their dream jobs. Okay, we've got one other slide before we dive into the live demo, but I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Chelsea Gould, to walk you through some of these other enhancements that are coming as part of this IXD Dev project.
You'll see that I'm logged into the IXD platform as Kevin, our employer, and as you can see, I have it zoomed out on purpose because this is kind of the overview that you're going to see when your employers hit their dashboard, and I can easily zoom in with everything adjusting to how far I'd like to zoom. So this is a great way to show off that interactive design. I'm just on a desktop right now, and it's easily reacting to the size that I would like it to be, which I'm going to make it nice and big for everybody to see today. As Ryan mentioned, this is customizable and branded to your school, your colors. Obviously, we love our grad leaders blue, but these colors can be changed with this icon as well. So picture your colors as we're going through this today. The new widgets that we mentioned already in the presentation are these My Events widgets, which you can rename. A lot of this can be branded to whatever lingo that your employers are used to, whether you're coming from a community college, a four-year institution, whatever the case may be. So job postings may be interchangeable with opportunities, events could be interchangeable with my calendar, and this widget is going to be the first thing that they see depending on how you've lined up your dashboard, and this is going to show all the events that the employer has signed up for themselves. So this is Kevin's events, and this can be configured to show more events than just what he has, but this is what Kevin has on the schedule, and it's going to, by default, show the next 5 days out. The other new widget that we mentioned is the job postings widget, and this is one entire widget. So you guys are seeing two parts to the same widget. One is the active job postings, and the second is the expired job postings. These do go hand in hand. They are configured together, and they're configured to show the recent postings in each. So it shows the 5 most recent in each, depending on how big your screen is. And we do recommend having these at the top. As you can see, we really have spent a lot of time with our data and what your employers click on and what they're going to. That's why we have them at the top for demo purposes. But again, you can rearrange if need be. One thing before I get into the other areas of this is we saw the button up here to edit the dashboard. So I am logged in as Kevin from my administrator account. So I have the ability to edit the dashboard of what employers see. So in this model, you can definitely move things around if you want to put other things at the top, because as we scroll down, you'll see there's even more widgets at their disposal. So you can put anything that works for your campus. All right, then first thing I want to go into is falling right in line with what our data said, and that's what your employers are doing. They care about jobs. They're going to post jobs, they're going to look at the jobs that they've already posted, the activity on them. That's their main reason for coming to your site in general. And what we've done here is put it in a couple different places. So they do have this menu on the side, just like the student version of this, and they can go to the job postings menu if they really like that hamburger style over here. They can also click into it from here as well. I'm the type of person that clicks on the left-hand side because I want to see everything that job postings menu has to offer. And once it loads, you'll see there's a couple enhancements to just the view. I'm partial to stacked, but a lot of people do like the grid view. So this is an option as well. You can switch back and forth very easily. Perfect. There's a couple buttons that they'll be drawn to, which is the Add New, and if you remember on the dashboard, that Add New posting is right there for them, easily accessible as well. And when they do go to add a new job, the best part about the screens, no matter what device they're on, is that Save button is going to hang out for them. So no matter if I'm scrolling up or down, I always have the possibility to commit those changes that I've made. I'm not going to create one from scratch right now because that's a lot of detail to fill out without you guys needing to watch that. But the option to copy a job is much faster. So you'll see we're using icons to convey that information. If they hover over it, they can read what that does if they're not familiar with what an icon might mean. So if I go to copy this job, it's going to automatically fill out what was on the job before, but I am in a new form. So if I just use the options that I had before and try to save, it's going to let me know if I forgot something, if there was something that was required that I did not fill out. And you saw that save button is following me everywhere I go. So I didn't even scroll down to the end of the page. I was able to save. We do have credit card billing on for these jobs in the demo site. And I don't want to pay for this job right now. I don't want you all to see my credit card information. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel. But it did save the copy of the job that I wanted, and it is in pending status. So as an administrator, you can choose what you want to do with that job, but your employer didn't lose all their work just because they didn't have their credit card handy at that point if you do charge for jobs. But one thing that's really great is the student view from here. So we, on that last slide before we switched over to the demo, and y'all couldn't hear me, we had a line item on there that there is an option for you to see, the employers to see the student view of whatever they're doing in the system. So this is really popular for events, for interviews, for jobs. That's what we have it on for right now, where your employer is probably bugging you often saying, well, what is the student seeing? I want to make sure that they're seeing me in a good light or they're getting the right information. So you can preview that posting or that interview or that event and see it as the student does. It opens in a brand new tab, and it's the student view of that information. Another bullet point on that last slide was our new use of this ellipses here. So on the right-hand side, this is pretty common with newer technology where you'll see these 3 dots that give you your options of what to do next. So rather than listing out a bunch of tabs or different buttons that really clutter the screen, we really want to keep with a sleek design where they can expand if they want to do more. So you'll see these ellipses are located on a lot of these pages. All right. One last thing before I leave the screen is this ability to edit the survey. This is going to be new to a lot of you admins that are used to kind of switching screens and going back to your administrator side of things to make any edits that you want. Perhaps you found a typo, or maybe work authorization isn't a field that you really need anymore. You can go ahead and edit the survey that you're on at that time and not have to worry about going back to your admin side. Of course, whatever edits you make are going to carry through, so you want to be careful with that power, but if you do have that super admin access, you can do it right when you're logged in as an employer. And if you're not familiar with super admin, you can send us in a ticket to support@gradleaders.com. The other big reason why employers are coming to your system is for wanting to get on campus. What do they come on campus for? It depends on your school and what you guys offer with your services, but we do have a couple examples here where your employers are going to submit a request to come on campus, and we've made this a lot easier for you compared to what it used to be. Used to be big green buttons that gave you many options for why you're coming on campus. This is just a blanket request now, where you add in the top right-hand corner. And this is customizable to your school, so this list is going to vary, but why are they coming on campus? They choose right here from this drop-down, and I'm going to choose a full-time interview. And you'll see it's already going to populate everything from the industry that they're in and the company that they're posting on behalf of. And all of this is customizable to you when you go through an implementation to create this side of the system for you, or if you already have the GLCC system, you should be familiar with what you request from your employers. And this information can be defaulted. You can edit the survey if you don't like some of these defaults. But we really love the new feature that was on the last page as well, and that's the ability to say which dates are valid for their request. And it has this pop-up, which should be familiar to you, where they're going to just see the information right off. But the best part about it is, rather than clicking on it, they're going to try to use the calendar. And you'll see here that it's grayed out for any dates that aren't in those valid. This is a minor change, but we love it because it does not allow for your employers to choose dates that aren't in that valid date range. And you know, a small thing, but you won't have to deal with a lot of back and forth with your employers anymore because they physically cannot select a date that isn't in the valid date that you set up. Okay. And that submit is still scrolling with you, so we love that. The third most popular reason why your employers come to your system and use it is to find your students. And we want to make that as easy for them as possible. So it is a configurable widget on your dashboard. So just going back to the dashboard, it's something that they can search right off, and this is customizable as well. And they can search for students here, or there's a tab for it. What's great here is the ability to see really easily what you've just searched for, what you are searching for. It's going to give you these color-coded notifications that you have students that match the filter that you're currently on, and you'll see this ellipses comes up again where you can clear what you've searched, you can add notes to that search, etc. But if I want to clear that out, very easy to do, and I can view all of these students. Depending on what your permissions are, a lot of you might, you know, limit what your employers can see on the student, but for demo purposes, we allow them to see the resume, and then they are able to make notes on the student if you have that permission on as well. And the ellipses will allow them to do any more that you have allowed via permission. So if you do allow them to email, and they can also, there is the ability for them to see student information if you allow that in the permissions. Going back to the dashboard, there are other menus that you can turn on depending on what you have set up with your contract with us, and then other included options and features that you may or may not use. The last thing that's super popular that we want to highlight is the resource library, and that is where we have really done a great job to make this user-friendly for your employers. So the option to email the resource, any documents can be downloaded. This is where you can manage what your employers get out of your system and what you're providing for them as a resource from your office. I think I've covered everything that we had on the list. I apologize for my sound issues, but this is the preview of the Employer IXD.
Thanks, Chelsea. I will take the presenter role back from you. Give me 1 second to share my screen. Okay, so just a few reminders to recap some of the stuff that Chelsea just said. There were a few other enhancements that came with this project beyond just making it mobile responsive and the new redesign. The one that Chelsea mentioned is the Next Actions button is now simplified into one single Next Actions button that you're used to seeing on other apps and mobile devices. If you're familiar with the GradLeaders Career Center Employer Portal today, there's these 5 green plus signs for each individual request that an employer can add today. Now it's been simplified into one Add Request button. One of the most exciting ones is the date selection questions only allow the employers to select from valid date ranges. It makes it much easier for them to use the system. On interview details and other details screens, the tabs are now cleaned up so that they're all in line and you can just thumb them quickly on a mobile device like you're used to scrolling side to side on a mobile device. And another one that everyone's really excited about is the new Preview as Candidate feature or Preview as Student feature for your employers. Some other important notes that I think Chelsea mentioned, but just to recap again, the calendar widget at the top of the employer dashboard shows the events that the company or the recruiter are signed up for. There's a setting so you can have it just show what the recruiter signed up for or what their entire company has showed up for, but it's not showing all events at your school, it's just what they're signed up for. The job postings widget only shows the 5 most recent active jobs or expired jobs in that widget. Everything else, they have to click the arrow to view all. I know Chelsea mentioned this. The active job postings and expired job postings are actually just one widget. It's a redesign of the current job posting widget that exists on the employer dashboards. And both of these new widgets will appear on the top of the dashboard the day that we launch this. as long as you've got the calendar and the job postings widget turned on in your current employer dashboard. And again, the reason we decided to put them on the top in that order is based off of the data that we looked at, and those are by far the two most popular things that employers are doing in the system today, so we just want to make it easy for them to get to what they want to do. Okay, so now it's time for the Q&A. A reminder to put your questions in the chat functionality, not into the Q&A. I know that's confusing, but if you put it into the chat functionality, we can be certain that Chelsea, Jessica, and I can all see the questions you're asking. And so I know we got a few questions there while we were doing the demo. The first one, I think we've talked about this a couple times, but are the widgets editable so that the order of the widgets on the page can be changed and sorted? And the answer to that is yes, they can be changed and sorted. The day that this goes live, they will put them in the order we've been talking about, so events on top, then job postings. Then they will show up in the order that they exist in the system today, but depending on the size of your screen, if you've got a big 5K iMac, there's actually 3 rows of widgets. If you're on a mobile device like a phone, there's only 1 row of widgets, so they show up in different orders depending on the size of your screen. So the next question I will let Chelsea or Jessica answer. Can the candidate search be renamed to student search?
Hey, yeah, this is Chelsea. Yes, we can definitely rename almost everything in the system. We do what is called a term replacement. So if you would like to go by student instead of candidate, that is a kind of an overall system change that we can make. And so changing it in one place on the admin side will change it in a lot of places on the rest of the system.
Awesome. Thank you, Chelsea. Jessica, I think this might be a question for you. I believe this might be coming from one of our graduate business school or MBA partners. So they wanted us to spend a little bit more time discussing resume viewing, especially how as an admin at a school we can allow students and employers to view resumes. Also, how does this all work with resume books today?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So resume viewing is something that is available within the employer view. It does require an access code so that employers would be able to see candidates and that you would have some control over giving access to that. Obviously, that can be data that you wouldn't just want out there. You'd want it behind some sort of access code. In terms of students opting in, I don't actually know that this is something that is typically configured for our undergrad schools. I would need to follow up on that, but there are ways for admins to opt students in for that function. Typically it's by like a system status or what we would call a resume book status. And then you can also place a question on the candidate's profile that's essentially, you know, authorization to publish my resume in the student resume database or the employer resume database. So definitely options there in terms of allowing admins to control. So if you want to do some sort of resume review before, you know, you're letting folks be visible to employers, and then also letting students choose whether they want to be part of that. Did I answer all of that? I'm reading the question again. Yeah, resume books, it's really a resume database, and the way that it works is employers can go in and they can just page through each of the students individually if they want and look at their resume. Typically the profile fields are not shown to an employer. However, they have search criteria. So just throwing this out there as an idea, if you want them to be able to search on work authorization, maybe language, things like function, preference, industry preference, they can go and build searches and then reach out and see the resumes, and then depending on the school settings, they can reach out to candidates that meet their search. So, anything I'm missing, Ryan?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
While you're there, I think this next question is probably best for you as well. We've got a few questions about if a school has custom fields or custom development, will those transition over automatically, or do they need to redo all those custom fields?
So the term replacements are going to carry through. Screen messages are going to carry through, although you are going to want, I would recommend the day that we launch this, which you're going to know about that in advance. But I would log in and take a look and make sure that the screen messages make sense. Those can easily be edited on the fly. You know, if you've got the admin permission to be able to edit messages, so maybe it said, you know, click below for something and now the button's above, something like that. So there's going to be minor tweaks to some messaging, just like we had whenever we switched to the new candidate interface last year. But other than that, everything should carry over. Everything will carry over. It just may need to be adjusted.
Awesome, thanks. We have a related question that I think I can answer. People saw that the job fees was turned on in the system today and just wanted to know if that's going to be turned on automatically when we launch this in May, and the answer is no. Whatever you have turned on in your system today is what's going to be turned on when this launches in May. We are demoing this in our demo environment, which just has all of the features and functionalities turned on for demo purposes, but whatever you have in your system today and whatever branding you have in your system today will appear when this launches. I don't think we mentioned this, but the branding is actually carrying over from the candidate interface, so you don't have to worry about picking new colors or picking colors again or giving us a logo again. It will just carry over from what you have in the candidate interface, the student interface today. We also have a question about, do we have the percentage of current recruiter activity taking place via phone and iPad versus laptop today? And yes, we do. It's obviously different for every school, but generally speaking, the employer interface today is not mobile friendly, so we have very little activity on mobile devices. It's less than 5%. After this launches, we expect it to go up just like it did in the candidate interface when we launched it last year. We also have a few other questions about can we follow up with Jessica or Chelsea if we have more questions about this, and the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, we can see who's asking the questions, so we will follow up individually after this.
Yep.
And feel free to follow up with the support team, your CRM or your CSM as well. There's one other question about what 2 features or widgets did you recommend that we turn on when we launch? They caught the one, but they didn't catch the other. So after analyzing all the data, the majority of the traffic on the employer portals is to job postings and to OCR requests and events and everything that has to do with managing that process. So our recommendation is to turn on the event calendar at the top of the dashboard and the job posting widgets next. That is what it will look like the day we launch this. So as long as you've got those widgets turned on today, which most schools do, that's what will appear for employers that day. Okay, I think we covered all of the questions. If we missed somebody, again, we can see who asked every question, so we will follow up individually, but I think we've got them all. So we just have a few more reminders, and then everybody will get about 30 minutes back in their day today. So if you have not visited our school partner support portal, it's at gradleaders.com/partner-support. It's a great resource for you, for not only you, but for your students and recruiters as well. There's a whole bunch of guides and best practice examples and templates you can use and marketing kits. It's a great place to go learn more about everything GradLeaders has to offer. So check that out. We will also be updating this here in the next couple weeks with a whole bunch of new employer support materials, and actually be launching a whole new page that you can share with your employers if you want to, and it will have guides and how-to videos, so it will help them learn how to use the system. We believe it's really intuitive and that they won't need those things, but if they need them, if you want to send them out to your employers, you can. Also, last reminder, conference is just, I believe, 12 business days away at this point. The deadline for registration is Monday, so if you have not registered, please do so immediately. Got a few tickets left, but the hotel room is booking up pretty fast, so book now if you haven't. If you have already registered, we're looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. And that is all we have, so thank you everybody. Thank you Jessica, thank you Chelsea for your time today, and thanks everybody who attended.